Good day. Thank you again for joining me. Today we'll be discussing the art of the apostrophe. Again, my name is Professor Oliver, and this is English 101 and 030. One of the reasons that people misuse the apostrophes is because essentially they become confused about why we use them, when we use them, and where they should be placed in the word. So one of the things that we'll be thinking about today is kind of our rationale for using apostrophes, because that essentially helps to inform you about all three of these things. So, the first thing you want to keep in mind is that apostrophes are used in three basic situations. The first is to show possession. When showing possession, you have to think about what is possessing what, or who is possessing what. The next thing is with regard to replacing letters and numbers. When you have replacements, otherwise known as contractions, you essentially are smushing a word together or getting rid of things to make the word smaller. And then finally, with changing standalones to nouns. Standalones are a particular class of words or symbols, and so we'll talk about those in just a moment. With regard to possession, you have to keep two basic things in mind. First of all, how many items do you have, and whether or not the spelling changes. So with regard to the number of items, we'll use the terms singular or plural. Singular represents just one, and plural represents two or more. And it doesn't matter if you have 2 or 2 million, it's just plural. With regard to spelling changes, you've got to think about the word or the stem. And so if the word actually changes spelling, or if the ending changes based on whether or not it goes from singular to plural, makes all the difference in where we place the apostrophe in the word. With regard to singular nouns, you have to think about the spelling of the word itself. So just to give you an example, the word boy, if the boy possesses something like a bike, well, the boy's bike is blue. And so to show possession, that the boy possesses the bike, we simply place an apostrophe before an S. If, however, there's more than one boy, and those boys possess something, then the letter S is already a part of the word. And so in order to show possession, you wouldn't actually put an apostrophe in between the Y and the S, but rather after the S to show possession. So whenever you have boys, S apostrophe, that means you have multiple boys possessing something. The same thing holds true for any other noun. The word joke. The joke's ending was boring. One joke, apostrophe S. Multiple jokes, the joke's punchlines all ended in the word girl. Well, if multiple jokes had punchlines that ended in the word girl, then you know that S is a part of the spelling of the actual word and the apostrophe goes after. But what happens when the spelling changes? The word man is one example of this. The word itself is just M-A-N. So if a man possesses something, the man's tie, then you know you have apostrophe S. But if you have multiple men, then the word changes. It goes from M-A-N to M-E-N. And so then you don't change the possession or the placement, but rather the spelling to indicate plurality. And so men apostrophe S is the same way to show possession. Okay? The same thing holds true for a word that changes spelling drastically, like person to people. Person is the singular version, apostrophe S. People, because the word itself is plural, also has apostrophe S when you're showing possession. So the person's car was stolen, the people's car was stolen. Multiple people possess the car, apostrophe S. Okay? When you have a stem change, however, as with Y changing to IES, you have to think about placement and spelling. So the word country, the country's flag has green in it. One country possesses a flag with green in it, so apostrophe S. But with the spelling change, indicating plural, then countries now possess something. So the country's flags all have green in them. It's multiple countries, IES, possessive, with the apostrophe at the end. Possessive pronouns never have apostrophes. And if you aren't aware of what possessive pronouns are, I have a very brief list here. But possessive pronouns in a nutshell are just terms for words that already have possession built in. like his, her, my, mine. By the way, as an aside, the word mine never has an S unless you're discussing multiple explosive devices. Our, your, all of these words are possessive pronouns. The one anomaly here is its. Its is typically confusing for people, so you have to be aware of what you're saying with the word its, which is a good lead-in to part B, replacing letters and numbers, otherwise known as building contractions. Whenever you're thinking about contractions, you're thinking about smushing words together or taking out certain things to make them shorter or truncated. So we have, for example, the word should not. Should plus not equals shouldn't when you're making a contraction. So the contraction is indicated by the apostrophe that's placed wherever the letters or numbers are missing. So regardless of the fact that you also have a space in between should not, doesn't matter. Still, the word shouldn't has that apostrophe wherever the letters or numbers are missing. So the word, or the decade, the 1960s, then becomes the 60s, with the apostrophe indicating a replacement for 19. So getting back to its. Its, when you have a possessive pronoun, represents something that is not a person possessing something else. It is, as a contraction, on the other hand, represents the words it plus is being smushed together to form its. And so in this case, you have it apostrophe s to represent the missing I. So let's do a check, just to be sure that we understand what's going on, especially with the differences between its as a possessive pronoun and its as a contraction. The puppy hurt its paw. Would you write its, its, showing a possessive pronoun, or would you write its, it apostrophe s, showing a contraction for it is? The puppy hurt its paw. The puppy hurt its paw. Well, the reality is that if you cannot safely replace the contraction with it is, then you know you're not using the contraction. So the puppy hurt it is paw wouldn't make sense. So we know it's not it apostrophe s. Our last issue is with standalones. Standalones are letters or symbols that represent something by themselves. So a letter or symbol that represents something on its own. So here are a few examples. Last semester I earned 4 A's and 2 B's. So if we did not have an apostrophe here in between the A and the S, this sentence would actually read, last semester I earned 4 A's and 2 B's. Right? So you'll know you need the apostrophe because a standalone A or a standalone B needs that apostrophe to represent that it has been turned into a noun. The same thing holds true for the other two examples. All of the I's are blue. If you did not have that apostrophe, it would be all of the is are blue. Wouldn't make sense. She has hearts on her purse, and using the symbol. So again, it can represent standalone letters or symbols or numbers in some cases. So let's review just a moment. Today you've learned about showing possession with apostrophes and how you need to have the number of apostrophes, the spelling of the apostrophes and of the words, and whether or not you're going to be using them in certain situations to show possession. Okay? You also need to know how to use apostrophes when you are replacing letters and numbers, and recognizing that the apostrophe is placed wherever the letters or numbers are missing. Finally, you also need to know that apostrophes are used to represent standalones, otherwise known as changing those letters or numbers or symbols into their own entities. Finally, as an aside, please do remember that possessive pronouns never get apostrophes because they are possessive on their own. Thank you. If you have any questions, please see me in class. Have a wonderful day.